Every barrel of oil ever pumped carries a secret. Not just fuel, not just energy, but power. The kind of power that has toppled governments, started wars, and built entire civilizations on a foundation of black liquid buried miles beneath the earth. The United States burns through nearly 20 million barrels a day, most 16 million. The entire world consumes over 100 million barrels every single day. That's roughly 1,200 barrels every second. But here's the question nobody asks at the gas pump. Who really controls that flow? And what happens when it stops? This is the Financial Historian, where money, power, and history collide. And nothing is ever as simple as it looks. Oil isn't just a commodity. It's the central nervous system of the modern world. Every war, every election, every economic boom and collapse pulses through this one viscous substance. And if you follow the pipeline long enough, you discover something unsettling. The price of oil was never just about supply and demand. It was always about control. To understand how we got here, a world where 13 men in a room can trigger a global recession, we need to go back to the beginning. Long before the first oil well was drilled in Pennsylvania in 1859, the world ran on whale oil and coal. Energy was local, inefficient, and limited. Then crude oil arrived, and with it, the first great truth of the modern era: whoever controls the fuel, controls the future. By the early 20th century, a handful of companies known as the Seven Sisters had carved up the world's oil reserves between them. Standard Oil, Shell, BP, and others dictated to governments. Oil-rich nations sat on generational wealth and received almost none of it. The oil flowed outward. The profits flowed to New York and London. But in 1960, something changed. 5 nations gathered in Baghdad and formed OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. Not a cartel, they said. A coalition. And for a decade, the world barely noticed. Then came 1973, the Yom Kippur War. Arab OPEC members declared an oil embargo against the West. Almost overnight, the price of oil quadrupled. Lines formed at petrol stations across America. The British government declared a 3-day work week to conserve energy. The phrase energy crisis entered the global vocabulary. It was a turning point. Producing nations had weaponized the commodity. The West scrambled. It built strategic reserves, pressured, bribed, and in some cases, toppled governments to secure supply. The CIA's involvement in Iran, military bases in Saudi Arabia, the invasion of Iraq, connect the dots and oil runs through them. But here is the deeper paradox. The nations that profited most from oil are now among the most anxious about its future. Saudi Arabia earns over 70% of revenue from oil. Norway built an $1.7 trillion sovereign wealth fund off North Sea oil. The Gulf states built glittering cities in the desert, funded by a substance that may become obsolete within a generation. Because oil has a second secret: it's finite. The concept of peak oil has been debated for decades. The question isn't when oil runs out, it's when the world stops wanting it. Electric vehicles are growing. Renewables now produce more electricity than coal. Demand could peak before 2030. If that's true, every trillion-dollar oil economy is sitting on a melting ice cap. The race is for diversification. Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 is a quiet admission that the oil era has a visible end. Abu Dhabi is buying tech companies. Qatar is funding infrastructure. They're converting one form of power into another. And yet oil refuses to step aside quietly. Russia's entire geopolitical leverage rests on it. Europe's energy crisis following the Ukraine conflict revealed how deeply dependent wealthy nations remain on fossil fuels. The world is simultaneously trying to escape oil and unable to live without it. That contradiction defines our era. So the next time you fill your car, consider what you're actually buying, not just fuel. Century-old geopolitical arrangement. The price on the pump is the visible number. Invisible price, measured in influence and dependency, is still being calculated. Oil built the modern world. The modern world is quietly trying to build something that doesn't need it. Whether that transition is managed or catastrophic depends on decisions being made right now in Vienna, Riyadh, and Washington. The pipeline is the same. Only the destination is changing.